Cool. And we're rolling.
All right.
So I'm here with a coworker, somebody I met through work, somebody I consider a close friend. His name is Shannon Garrett, and he's just about to tell me something about KG. So we're just gonna get it started. We'll get into the intro a little bit later, but
Okay, well, thank you for having me. It was just I was watching a documentary and we were talking about draft picks, and historically before Curry, the Warriors were terrible drafting. So the Warriors had the first pick in the draft, and they picked Joe Smith.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it was Jerry Stackhouse, Kevin Garnett, Rasheed Wallace.
Wow.
And
Is this the Kobe draft?
No, the year before Kobe.
Oh, okay.
So KG was the first high schooler of that era.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, Kobe came.
Got it.
So Joe Smith was like player of the year, but he's an NBA, just a rebound screener.
Mm-hmm.
You got Antonio McDyess was one.
Okay.
Still like all-star. Joe Smith never all-star.
Yep.
KG, Hall of Fame.
These are all the guys that came after Joe Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Tough.
The five picks after.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah. So before Steph, man, the Warriors draft picks.
Yeah, not good, right?
No.
Jason Richardson, was he a draft pick?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So like that was a good one because that was what
Chris Webber too, no?
Chris Webber, but
then they sent him to the Kings
1 year. No, they sent him to Washington.
Mm.
So he played for the Warriors. Don Nelson. He didn't want to play center.
Mm.
So he wanted
Power
to trade.
forward?
He was power forward. They wanted to trade him, so they traded him to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
But they had Penny Hardaway, man. They
The
drafted
Warriors.
Penny Hardaway first, and they traded him to Orlando. Orlando had the first pick.
Oh.
So Orlando drafted Webber,
Mm-hmm.
traded him to the Warriors for like a whole bunch of draft picks. But, I mean, Webber's better historically, but for that 3-4 years, Penny was rolling, man.
He was, yeah. And they almost won, didn't they?
Yeah.
Him and Shaq?
His second year.
Right. Who did they lose to? The Rockets?
Rockets, yeah.
Yeah. From what I remember, is like the Rockets' more veteran team.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had Elijah on. I don't know who else.
Elijah
Kenny
Wan,
Smith, right? Was on the team.
Clyde Drexler.
Oh, Clyde. That's a good one right there.
That was like when I first started watching basketball when I was a kid.
Mm.
But that they had him. Orlando had him down first game.
That's right.
Nick Anderson missed 4 free throws in a row. Could have closed it out.
Yep.
And then
That's it from there.
that's it. He was never the same. Kind of like Ben Simmons.
Shook.
Didn't want to shoot.
That's tough. Traumatizing.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to how much the mind and confidence works in sports, right?
For sure.
You know, you see somebody with crazy athletic ability.
Yep.
Just dude, just go get a bucket, man.
Right. Let it fly.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're 6'9", faster, stronger than everybody. Go get a bucket.
Yep.
That free throw line.
Haunt you for life.
Man.
It really is something though, man, because when you're practicing on your own, it's fine, but then it's just you, everything stops for you.
Mm-hmm.
All eyes are on you.
Yes.
And you feel that.
And it's crazy, I've never shot a pressurized free throw in an NBA setting, right?
Right.
It's just high school.
Right.
But still, man, when everything's on you and, the stigma is, he can't shoot free throws.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're thinking,
Yep.
you can make 100 in a row in practice.
Yep.
But lights come on.
Yep. Yep. That reminds me, recently, did you see the guy in the Celtics?
Yes.
He told Donovan Mitchell he was going to make both.
Yes. well, didn't he say something about the Warriors too? Same guy?
I have no idea.
Said something to Steph about they were the better team.
Yes.
The better team didn't win or something.
That's right.
That.
Yeah.
It's
funny.
Too late.
It's funny. All these guys chirping.
Right. Too late.
Yep.
Make one free throw.
Say.
It's
tie the game. Do something.
Right. So I guess the better team didn't win that game.
Right.
Because he missed free throws.
Right. Alrighty. Well, I was gonna call you Mr. Garrett again. So I'm gonna address him by Garrett again. Garrett and I met through work. We teach at the same school. We also coached basketball together for 3 seasons now. So we spent a lot of time together, getting to know each other through that. And I can say I've become pretty close to him. Been wanting to get him on here. I think he's an interesting person. We've had a lot of good conversations just, in our time together. I think it'll be interesting to get to know who you are. Yeah, just hear the stories that you have. And so let's start with something simple, but maybe not so simple, depending on who you ask. Tell me about where you grew up, how long did you spend there, and what is your relationship with that place?
So I grew up in Berkeley, California.
Yep.
So offshoot of Oakland.
Yep.
A lot of people, when they hear Berkeley, they think of like UC Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
And so the funny thing is, when I was younger, I never really got to I never spent time on Cal campus.
Mm.
And because of like how redlining set up the city. Mm-hmm. Like all the people of color were below the street called University Avenue. Mm. If you're a person of color that doesn't have money, you stay below University Avenue. Everybody else is above.
I see.
So we never really got to see or feel what the campus was like. We heard about it, we saw it, you could see it, yep. But we never went there. Mm. And so I was there until I graduated. Well, rewind. Berkeley has one district. So all the schools, there's one high school, one middle school, and so everybody's together. Yep. You have poor people going to school with kids who were professors at Cal's kids and stuff like that. Yeah. And so it is like true diversity, I say. Yeah. People say, oh, diversity is just the color. No, it's like diversity in thought. Yes. So I think like me coming up in Berkeley kind of opened my mind up and opened my eyes up to being able to mold myself with different cultures. Mm-hmm. But also it made me pretty angry in a way, because I see, what other people have, other kids have, and I'm thinking to myself, well, why don't we have what Timmy has over there?
Why is my situation different?
Right. Yeah. Right. And also, I feel like I was treated differently because of that, too. Because when I was younger, they had busing. You get bused to school. So my mom bused me up to a school in the Berkeley Hills. And I never forget this. I don't know why my mom told me I wouldn't tell anybody this if it was my kid. So 3rd grade parent-teacher conference, the teacher tells my mom, oh, Shannon will never be more than just the average student. He'll probably be, C's, maybe a B or here or there, but he'll never be more than just, middle of the road average student. Yeah. And
what grade was this?
3rd grade.
Okay.
So a teacher telling a 3rd grader's parent this amazing comfort to be able to say that to a parent.
Come on now.
And so my mom didn't tell me that right away, but as I got older, she told me. Mm-hmm. And so that created a chip on my shoulder where I didn't think I was able to succeed academically. And it's ultimately like a reason why I teach today, because I don't want that image, that message to be
passed on
to anybody else, right? Yep. And so how long did I live in Berkeley? I lived in Berkeley until I graduated high school. I went to Grambling State University in Louisiana for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. Messed around, played a couple sports, came back home, tried to figure out what I was doing, worked in, I went to aviation school, so I was an airplane mechanic for about 9 years. Mm-hmm. My daughter was getting ready to be born, so I went back to school, finished school, and now here I am. Right. I guess here I am means now I teach middle school.
Yep. In Stockton.
In Stockton, yes, sir.
Got it. I was going to ask about the college situation. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we've ever talked about it actually, but you did. So you did play sports in college, and you said sports, so multiple sports.
Oh no, sports meaning like the broad sports, like played a sport.
Oh, okay.
Not multiple sports. I played baseball, Little League.
Yeah. Okay.
So I tried out in college, made it. Never saw time on the court, but was redshirted and practiced.
Yeah.
But never actually like. You'll never see my name in a college box score.
I see.
If that makes sense.
Got it.
So
not on the stat sheet.
Not on the stat sheet. I was the one behind the bench with the jumpsuit on.
Got it.
You know.
Yeah.
So and we didn't get to travel, so it was just home games. But I mean, I guess I shouldn't say played because I didn't actually step foot on the actual
court.
floor.
But you went through the process. You were there. You practiced. Yeah. What was that like? Practicing?
It was actually funny. So we got to scrimmage against the actual team for tryouts. And the guy who I played against, we actually played against each other in high school. He went to school in San Leandro.
Wow. Small world.
Yes, and he wasn't that good. And so I think being able to play against him in tryouts allowed me to make the team at least for a year and a half.
Did you whoop him?
I did pretty good. I held my own, but you know, you can't be a 6'4" center.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That is tough.
That's especially when you're not like an amazing athlete.
Right.
You know, but like the conference wasn't that good. I don't think there's any pros that were in the conference at the time. And there's no 7-footers. Like I think the guy who I went up against in the tryout was like 6'9", 6'8".
I see.
So it's not like, you know, crazy height
difference.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So, you know, I mean, good experience.
For sure.
You know, can say, oh yeah, I was on the practice team, if that's even a thing.
Yep.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, I was actually going to talk about basketball later, but since we're on the subject, might as well. What was it like? Like, what was your relationship with basketball as a young person? Like, were you playing to go to college? Was it, was it a big commitment for you, or was it something that you just did for fun? Where were you at with that?
At first, like my mom, she put me into every sport. So baseball, football, basketball, soccer for like one trial period. And she just did that because my dad wasn't in the home.
Yep.
So she wanted me to have some like male role models to see.
Yep.
And also she felt that sports was a good, like, it helped you understand life. You know, like your wins and losses, tough times.
Yep.
And so like I played sports like all throughout, you know, and it was a good release for me back then. And it was a way for me to, you know, release tension. And it was something that I was good at and something that I saw people who look like me succeed in. And so that's what drew me towards it, because I see these images of people succeeding who look like me, and I can do like that. I could be, you know, Shaq, even though I'm nowhere near close to 7 feet, but we look the same.
Yep.
You know, and so for me, I was very naive. I thought I could go to the league, you know, but no chance.
Right.
You know, but my mom's not gonna kill my dreams, but it's always like, oh no, we'll make sure you stay in school, but yeah, go ahead and play.
Right. She was encouraging you.
Right. And so I pretty much in school academically only did enough to play. So the requirement back then was like 2.0. You need to get a certain score on the SATs when that came up, and minimum everything. Okay, like the teacher said, he'll never be more than average. So 2.0 GPA, exactly how much I needed, you know, on the SAT to get to a school. And then that was me. Everything was a means to play sports.
I see.
You know. And so, you know, that was my sports journey, was just being able to play, to access that outlet, to, you know, I guess get rid of aggression, or just, you know, do something that I thought I was supposed to be good at.
Right.
You know.
And had maybe some potential there.
Right.
Yeah. Last question on basketball, at least for the time. what was your play style like? How would you describe yourself as a player? Let's say in high school.
I was I was a defender / rebounder.
Mm-hmm.
I like to shoot. Like I had a good mid range jumper, but they didn't want bigs out there.
Yeah,
it's like
different time.
Right, get by the basket and shoot that layup, get a jump hook.
Right, get a putback.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we played high low, so I got I played the 4 most of the time. So I can hit a free throw jumper in high school, get a lot of rebounds, play good defense.
Yeah.
My dad,
pick and rolls?
Huh?
Pick and rolls?
No, the guard didn't pass too much. So it was more pick, roll, and get the rebound.
Got it. Yeah, crash the board.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Actually, like, we had the same motion offense that we tried to run last year with the 7A. Mm-hmm. That was our offense.
I see.
And so pick and roll, there was really no room for that.
Yep.
Because in that offense, it's just spread out.
Yep.
There was really, as I think about it, there was no pivoting from the offense. It was just
run it.
And a lot of our offense was just off our press. We just had a man press and we just ran off there.
Yep.
But yeah, I was more of the dirty work guy. I wasn't like the flashy. Like, we had a couple dudes who were pretty flashy and athletic, but that wasn't me.
Yeah.
I wish.
Yeah. Did your team do well? Did you guys do
well? We made a little run in my senior year. Mm-hmm. We lost in you go state, and then right before state, there's like semi.
Yeah, the regionals.
We lost in the semis and the regionals to Bishop O'Dowd. Mm-hmm. Last second, my teammate missed a free throw. We lose. It's like, he was crushed. Yeah, he was crushed. But
free throw to win the game.
Tied up.
2
shots. He missed one. Missed the second one. But what do you do?
Right.
He's an AAU coach now.
Is he?
Yeah. Hopefully his team make free throws.
Right. Man, it hurts. Okay. So you went to Louisiana for college, 1.5 years. You come back. You said you do aviation school. Mm-hmm. When do you make the move to Stockton?
So when I came back from Louisiana, I went to aviation school, and as I graduated, I met my wife. Mm-hmm. My wife was back and forth from Stockton to San Jose, and I got a job working at PG&E, and I moved my stuff out to Concord, and then they were laying off, so I quit. I got scared. I didn't want to get fired, so I quit. Had nowhere to stay, and I moved to Stockton with my wife. I'd say, 12 years ago.
Okay.
So been out here for 12 years.
Yeah.
And something that was supposed to be, stay here for a year or two, and we'll move back to the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm. Back to Berkeley.
Back to Berkeley was going to be the move, but I don't think it's the same Berkeley as I once knew. Because there's a lot of stuff that's been going on in Berkeley as far as like moving people out. Yeah. So the house my mom previously moved out of was the same one that we lived in growing up. Mm-hmm. 2-bedroom apartment, Section 8 apartment. But as time goes on, the apartment transitions and it's no longer a Section 8 apartment. My mom, she was working, so she didn't qualify. So they bought her out. They gave her like $10,000 to move out. Mm-hmm. So then now that same apartment, which was about a Section 8 apartment, is now like
luxury,
$2,000 a month, 1 bedroom. Like, come on, bro.
Yep. Did they turn it around into like a luxury apartment? Yeah.
So it was a 2-bedroom before.
Yeah.
But I guess they knocked the wall down, and now it's a luxury 1-bedroom.
I see.
My mom, she looked at the floor plan, and she's curious about it. So she looked at the website. They have like a floor plan of all their units, and now it's a 1-bedroom. But I think from San Jose, they're probably doing the same type of thing there.
Oh, absolutely.
And the feel of the city is a lot different.
Yeah.
Especially like the area of Berkeley that I grew up in, which was, probably 70% black in the area that I grew up in. Mm-hmm. And now it's probably 30 to 40%. And it's sad because you remember what it used to be, and then when you drive around the city and you see what it is now, it's like, this isn't the place that I grew up.
Right, completely different.
Right. So then I didn't want to go back. It's like, this is not home anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and it sucks because it's such a great place to grow up.
Right.
You know, but it's not the same as it once was.
So is it reasonable to say that it was gentrified?
Oh,
absolutely. Is that the right way to describe it?
Yeah, that's how I usually describe it. It was gentrified into what it is now. You know, and it's crazy because a lot of the discrimination laws that they have for like housing, a lot of them started in Berkeley.
Yep.
And they have a statue of the guy who was instrumental in that fight on the street, like the main street that I grew up on is called Sacramento. There's a statue of that guy on that same street while in the middle of a gentrified community now. Like, come on, man. Like,
ironic.
Right. The irony is outrageous. And the statue is pretty new.
Yep.
Like,
that's unfortunate. Yeah, in regards to the apartment building thing, I actually noticed a very similar thing in San Jose. When I drive by now, I see it, even new apartments that have already been built, but then also new apartments that are in the process of being building. And in my head, it just doesn't make any sense because, like, I'm sure you know this too, there's a pretty big homelessness problem in the state of California, but especially in the Bay Area specifically, right? Like the more pricey areas to live. It's like, who are you building these apartments for?
Right.
When probably like 80-90% of the people living in this area can't afford them.
Right. And then, like, the crazy thing is people pay rent on a place to store their things.
Exactly.
When people have nowhere to stay.
Yep.
You know, and when we say, oh, we're going to open up a shelter for homeless people, now the community's up in arms. They don't want it in their neighborhood. You know, but I think there's such hypocritical, like, people, the same person who wants to fight for homelessness doesn't want a homeless shelter in their community.
That's right.
So it's
not
like,
in my backyard.
Right. So where?
Exactly.
And that's too bad.
Yeah.
You know, because when you live in a place like the Bay Area, in an area, especially like Berkeley, which is known for like being so liberal and so, you know, for people's rights, but you're pushing people out of their homes, and you have the swell of homelessness, you know, what are you fighting for in the first place?
Right.
You know, and that's what sucks. And I think that's when I talked about like the anger that I had when I was younger. When I see these, you know, these hypocritical things when I was younger, I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know
what was happening.
And I think the hypocrisy of the city that I lived in was the blame for that.
Yep.
You know, you have all these liberal things that are going on, all these words that are saying, oh yeah.
Right.
But the actions don't back it.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And that's the things that, like, really made it frustrating.
I hear that. I had a similar experience, not of frustration, but like very shocking. So for those that don't know, I think you know, I went to school in LA, and I like taking pictures. So me and my friend would go around just random places to go and take pictures, right? And I remember the art district being like a cool place to go take pictures because they had like a lot of graffiti. But we didn't really know like a specific place to go. And crazy enough, we actually ended up like in the center of Skid Row. Because it's actually like a couple blocks away from the art district.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was just mind-blowing to me that literally like 1 or 2 blocks away, you got the art district that is very clean, very bougie, fancy, brunch places, coffee shops, people walking their dogs, nice apartments. And then like 2 blocks over, you got this 4 or 5 block radius of just tents.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this?
Right. and then people want to act like it's not there.
Yeah.
It's there.
Right.
And how can you ignore it?
Yeah.
And that's the sad thing, to where like of course they're pushed in that area.
Yep.
They're being forced. Oh, go here. We'll let everything happen before whatever street this is. Past that street, you can't do it, but before that street, go ahead.
Yep.
And I think I don't know if there was. I was watching. Have you ever seen United Shades of America?
Mm-mm.
It's W. Kamau Bell. He has a documentary on CNN, and he goes to different places, and it talks about like how like different races are treated and how different people are treated in different areas. And he talks about Skid Row, and there was a push in LA to open up apartments for homeless people.
Yep.
And there was funding for it, but just magically somehow the funding was no longer there. And I think the verbiage on whatever contract it was a concerted effort to provide. So they showed the effort, and I guess the effort was enough. You don't have to actually provide it; just show an effort to provide, which is crazy. But yeah, it's hurtful, like, to see that, because even in San Jose, like, there's parts just like
absolutely.
that. You drive too far one way, and it's homeless encampments.
Tents.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like now, in Berkeley, there's a place called like the Berkeley Marina. So there's like an overpass, and there's like it used to be a playground we used to go to with a zip line. It was crazy. Now that place is no longer there, and it's like dozens of like tents and like homeless people across the freeway. There's a huge storage facility where people store their stuff, and they can see it from the encampment. It's crazy. That's what always, when I think of homelessness, I always think of that scene where you have a homeless encampment, and right over the bridge is
space.
Yeah, for things.
Yeah. I hear you. Okay, so returning to Stockton, I'm curious to hear, how would you describe the city? And the reason I asked that is because, like, I'm still kind of new to this area. I've only been here, well, it's actually almost 3 years now. Got here in 2020, Manteca specifically. And still learning, like, Stockton, still learning this area, the whole 209 pretty much. Pretty familiar at this point, but still learning and meeting people that have been here for some time, meeting people that are born and raised. And I say this with all due respect, but Stockton is known to have a reputation, let's say, and maybe it's not the best one. But then also at the same time, from my experience, it's just like any other place where you have normal people, regular people that are trying to go about their lives, do what they do, go to work, take care of their family. But it still has a reputation, at least from the outside perspectives, and even from some of the residents too. Right? You could say it's ghetto. Some people will joke and say, like, are you familiar with the game Grand Theft Auto?
Oh yeah.
It's like real life Grand Theft Auto sometimes. So I don't say this to, like, bash on Stockton, but again, it just has that reputation. How would you describe it? What's your experience of it been like?
So it's funny. Stockton today reminds me of Oakland in the 90s. A lot of, like, poverty, a lot of, things happening to where the mood of the city isn't, like, the happiest, but I do think, like, speaking for myself, I don't think if I hadn't have moved to Stockton, I don't think I'd be in the same place that I am now, because there's underlying opportunities that are to be had in Stockton that aren't to be had, like, in the Bay Area, for example. Right. Like, to be able to get into a school like UOP with And to be able to finish up at Delta and go to UOP and to do pretty well, I don't think I would have been able to do that in the Bay Area. A, I wouldn't have been able to afford it, and B, I don't think the opportunity would have been there at like an equivalent school. Like, I mean, no way I was getting into Cal, but like the best school in the area, that wouldn't have been an option.
Right.
So I think like the mental scarring of people who live in Stockton creates a hopelessness that clouds the opportunities that are available to them.
Right.
You know, because it's there.
Right.
You just have to go get it.
Be proactive.
Be proactive.
Not get bogged down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think coming from a different area allowed me to not have that scarring and to seek out those opportunities that are actually there.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like I could have been a product of that same thing in Berkeley, right? Like
I see.
The mental scarring that it took for me growing up.
Yep.
Not even thinking that Cal was even achievable. That's just that school up the street.
Yep.
That's a barrier there.
Yep.
You know, and me coming from somewhere else could have been something that made me not even notice those barriers that are supposed to be there.
Exactly. You came in with fresh eyes.
Yes.
Open mind.
Yes.
I see.
And so I think, like, when I think of Stockton, there's opportunities there.
Yeah.
You know, there's
absolutely
opportunities for like creating your own space, because there's a lot of things that need to be had here.
Yep.
And there's a place for somebody to do it, I guess you could say. So when I think of Stockton, I think of opportunity, and I do think of, like, you know, a lot of poverty, a lot of robbery, and a lot of I guess you could say crime.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of like old money. There's a lot of like farm money. And there's a big have and had not community.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people who do have had for a long time.
Yep.
You know, parents were like farmers and agriculturalists and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I see that with my daughter's school, that there's a sense of arrogance to where, oh no, this is, you know, this is this family. They're known for blah 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 blah. You know, and it's like an arrogance to where, oh yeah, this is the old money that Stockton has. And then it's crazy to mirror that with our school.
Right.
You know, and to see what the families are living like. You know, and it's pretty sad to see that. But I do think there's a lot of opportunities in Stockton. There's a long-winded way of saying that.
Right. I believe that as well. And I could say it's funny you mention it like that, because it's actually similar. It's similar to what my experience has been like. Again, me coming in, I didn't know anything much about the city. And how did I even end up there? Like, the only reason I have business there is because we work at our school. It was funny. I applied to be a yard duty, and they took me right away.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. We know, because they need people, which is true. But it was just, at the time, it was very refreshing, because like the year or 2 years prior to that, like the job search was just so grueling for me, because I was in LA and I was trying to find full-time work out there. And it's a lot of people. It's pretty competitive. You know, I'm sure you know how it is. Like, a lot of the, let's say, like, full-time work, decent paying, benefits, that kind of stuff. Like, they want qualified people, right? Masters, a lot of years of work experience. So it wasn't easy. Like, that was, like, one part that I had to get through, right? Where I felt like I had a decent resume, but I didn't feel like the top. Like, I wasn't the top of my class. I didn't have 4.0 in college, anything like that. I didn't have, like, fancy internships. But then, too, it's just, like, it just took a long time. Like, big interview process. They made you wait a long time to get, you know, to let you know whether you got the job or not. And you're trying to do this for, like, a whole bunch. It was very exhausting. So for me to make the job application and literally got the call, like, the next day, like, hey, you free for an interview? It's like, oh, great, perfect. And it was like, I wanted to work with kids, so it was great. And it's panned out so far. So, yeah, I kind of have like, there's a lot of things you can do, a lot of spaces, opportunities to make an impact, let's say.
Right.
Anyhow, we got into it a little bit, but I'm curious now to hear your journey into education. So you mentioned you did the aviation school thing. You did a job for about 9 years, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes.
And from the conversations that we've had, you mentioned that it wasn't fulfilling, let's say. Is that right?
Right. It was just kind of the same thing every day. You know, you have a work order, you complete. I used to build landing gear doors.
Mm-hmm.
So every day you drill the same holes, you put the same rivets in, you do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
9 years, every day. And about 5 years in, the whole Trayvon Martin thing happened. And, you know, people talk a lot about, oh man, if I was doing this, we can make change with X, Y, and Z, you know, and, you know, this things that bad are happening in the community, we need to make change.
Yeah.
And I found myself saying, well, hell, like, it's easy to talk about it, you know, why don't I try to make the change I can make.
Yep.
And so what I felt was my change is academics. And so, like I was saying, like, I never saw a person that looked like me at school unless they were like the janitor.
Yep.
Never in the classroom. They never spoke the same language as me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I could not relate to anybody. So that made me feel as though the school in general wasn't for me. And so that's why, like, I gravitated towards sports, because I could find an image that looked like me right there. So that, along with my daughter, was my wife was pregnant, and so, you know, there needed to be an upward. I needed to find something new to make more money.
Yeah.
And so I went back to school at Delta, went there for 3 years, went to UOP, transferred, and went to UOP Master School. And so then I ended up, rewind, I graduated from UOP, and I needed to get an internship. When I wanted my internship I wanted to find was social studies. So a guy said, hey, there's this school called Team, and they need a resource teacher. No idea what a resource teacher meant. So I go in the interview blind, and they're asking me all these special ed questions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are they asking me all these special ed questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so finished my interview. Like, they called me right after, offered me the job. It's like, cool. And so
no idea what you're about to do.
No idea what I'm getting into.
Yep.
And so,
what did you think you were interviewing for?
I thought it was like a tutoring. A tutoring.
That's kind of what it sounds like. Resource specialist.
Right. And so I thought it was something good enough to progress me in my my credentialing program. It's because you need to be teacher of record. You need to have a certain amount of hours in the classroom. I'm thinking, okay, cool.
Yep.
You know, I don't have to have a classroom full of 20 yet. I got this resource thing. Cool.
Yep.
I'm a teacher's resource.
Yeah.
So then I give my paperwork to UOP, and they said, oh, well, you have to be in the special ed credentialing program. And so I'm like, huh? No, there'll be general ed kids in the classroom. And I just said, forget it. Let's see what it is, you know. And, you know, the stigma with special ed is like all of special ed is moderate severe. That's what you think when you're not in education, right? So that's what I thought, because I had never been in the classroom in any school since I was in school.
Right.
And to actually get to know the kids and to hear their stories and hear, you know, what their needs are, it was mind-blowing, because the needs of the kids, they just need a little bit of extra help in specific areas, you know, and it was something that touched me, because, you know, when I was growing up, special ed wasn't as big as it is now. And so I can think of numerous people that, like, dang, dude, they could have had whatever designation that is out there now, and it probably would have helped them a lot.
Right.
And so giving a voice and trying to create a plan to help these students out is really, really like rewarding for me.
Yeah, worthwhile.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
fulfilling.
then the difference is I have them for minimum like 3 years. And you build that relationship with them.
Yeah.
And you get to know them, you get to know the parents.
One-on-one too.
One-on-one. And it's very rewarding, and you see the growth. And then like this year's going to be tough because the first group that I had, they're gone.
Yep.
And, me being a tough guy, I'm going to cry. I'm sure graduation is going to be tough.
Of course.
But, yeah, so that's my story of how I got into education. Got into special ed on accident, and I enjoy it. There are times where I wish, I could teach like a general ed classroom, because I do like teaching a group of kids rather than one-on-one. It can get a little boring when it's one-on-one.
Sure.
But I do like teaching a large group.
Gotcha.
But it could be a pivot to where I just teach special day, which can still be like mild, moderate. It doesn't have to be like moderate, severe special day. But yeah, and then like the interesting thing about special ed is it's always evolving. There's so many things that you have to know, and you have to get to learn, that you have to be on your toes at all times.
Got it.
And then also the freedom of what you teach. Because as long as it's a reading comprehension thing, you can pick any passage that you want to, as long as it's their level, and as long as it serves the purpose of, what is the main idea of this reading? Which is a very, it's a freeing thing that I do enjoy, which would be frustrating. You probably have these same frustrations. It's like, I want these kids to know this specific thing, but I can't do it because the curriculum says I'm teaching
fractions, percentages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my academic journey with education.
I actually didn't know that you got into special education on accident. That's very interesting, because I was going to get into it. Like, why did you pick that? But now I know that it was an accident. So did you go into this whole process thinking you said social studies?
Social studies.
So you were going to be a social studies teacher.
So either social studies or I wanted to do 5th grade. Either one. I had an interview actually the day after my interview with the current school we're at. I was supposed to interview 1st grade in Lodi. And they called me back so quick I didn't even interview, because it's like, they already got a job. It's gonna be something that I can use for my internship. I'm good. Thinking about teaching 1st grade would have been wild. Too many little energies.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. There's another question there. Like, you said you were thinking either 5th grade, or what was the other option?
5th grade or social studies, single subject social studies.
Right. So probably middle school or high school.
Middle school.
Middle school.
I didn't want high school.
Did not want high school. Still don't want high school. Okay.
No, they're too grown.
Sure.
Middle school is that. I remember growing up, right, and you see these people that you grow up with, and their whole mentality changes somewhere like 8th, 9th grade, somewhere in between there, 7th, 8th grade, and then they're a whole different person. So I think the biggest impact that like you can have on a student is having them in middle school.
Right. It's a molding time.
Yes. And so that's why I gravitate towards middle school.
I see.
And high school, they're not finished products.
Of course.
But they're close.
Right. They're more set in their ways, let's say.
Yes.
They think they have their identity figured out.
Absolutely.
Right. Maybe some of them are mature.
But they're not.
Of course not. Of course not. See, that's the thing, like, I've noticed, you would think that's the case, but then now as, like, an older young person, even in college, too, you realize, like, you think you're an adult just because you're past 18 and you're on your own, you're independent, you're doing your own stuff, but mentally you're still very young, still developing.
What did I say? The mind doesn't what is it? 25 is the age where the brain understands like right from wrong the most, or something.
Fully developed.
That part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like you say, you know, when you're in college, even your brain isn't fully developed.
Right.
And so you're still going through growth. And,
right.
You know, all that stuff.
I would even go as far to say it's for life. Honestly.
Yes.
Like to say that okay, at 25 you're set. Whatever you are, whatever your identity is, that's it. I would think no, that's not the case because. I mean, it sounds kind of cheesy, but we can always change. Right? Maybe our habits and our tendencies will stay the same, but we can learn new things, gain new perspectives, go through life-changing experiences. Like, you can be like a grumpy old man in your 30s and 40s, and then all of a sudden in your 50s, you turn into like a compassionate, wise person that is looking to impart knowledge on the future. Who knows?
And even in my case, like, I wouldn't say all of my growth, but all of my career growth happened after 25. And, you know, if I was a finished product at 25, I would just be, for lack of a better word, like a laborer.
Right.
You know, and that would be it.
Right.
You know, so to say that we're done at 25 is an insult to people. That's why live, right?
Right.
If you're done and there's nothing else to live for after 25, then
what's the point?
Why live till 26?
Right.
You know, so.
Okay. We've talked about this here and there, and it's a pretty big topic, so we'll try to tackle it as best as we can. But I'm curious to hear how you feel about the education system overall in its current state. What are we doing right, and what can we improve on? Obviously, it's a big question, so take it how you will.
I think specifically for me and for you also, the relationship building is something that like is really in some schools, most schools, is really a big thing. And I think that is something that the education system is doing right, knowing that there's no way to reach a kid until you have that bond with them.
Yep.
You know, and other than that, I think there should be a shift in education to critical thinking. You know, it's a lot of it is write this down on the board.
Yep.
What does it say? Question. Memorize it. Answer A, B, C. I don't want your independent thought. Circle the right answer, and that's it. And I don't think that's the way to learn.
Right.
You know, that's the way to memorize stuff.
Right.
And from a special ed perspective, like some of these kids' working memory is so bad to begin with that if you want somebody to memorize something, it's not going to happen. You know, but if you allow them to think critically and use their experiences in their life or what their perspective on whatever the topic is, then that's true learning in my opinion.
Right. You know? We don't have to get into this is the correct answer. We just want to like work towards that. Right. Think about things conceptually. Is that right?
Yes. And like from a curriculum standpoint, like there's so many kids behind now since COVID. Yeah. I think it would be wise just to rip it up, start from scratch. Yep. You know, because there's almost a pre-COVID, post-COVID curriculum that should be had. Because, I mean, maybe it's our school, but at least 70% of the kids are like behind from where they should be. Right. You know.
I would imagine that's most schools probably.
And so with that being said, perfect time to pivot.
Right.
You know.
Rethink. Yes. What are we doing here? What do we want these kids to learn? How do we prepare them for this life right now?
Right. And so, you know, I guess that the question is like, what do you want a human being to know at the end of their 12th grade year? What is important? You know, and they should know how to think. Yeah, okay, know your times tables, know, you know, how to put a sentence together, but knowing how to think independently
Yep.
Is like, because if you don't know how to think independently, you can get fooled easily.
Become a sheep.
Exactly.
Follow somebody's orders blindly.
And is that what I mean? So I saw a documentary, like always.
Hey, education.
And they were saying that the curriculum that we use now was designed for when you graduate high school,
factory work,
to work in a factory and to work on an assembly line.
Yeah.
So then you don't have to think independently.
Right.
It's just, this square peg goes in the square hole.
Mm-hmm.
No thought. Put it in the hole.
Yep.
And that works.
Right.
But where are the assembly line jobs?
Right.
I don't see a Ford plant. I know a Tesla plant over there, but
Yeah.
it's only one plant in the city.
Right. And then of course, that's not the case for everybody.
Right.
Not everybody is going to be willing to do factory work.
Right. And so, like, what works for everybody? Independent thought should work.
Right.
For everybody.
Right. That can serve as your foundation, and then from there you can take it into whatever you're going to do next.
Right. But do you want that person working on an assembly line to ask you, why am I doing this?
Exactly. To question.
Right. And so, like, I think the schools that are in the communities that are struggling tend to go more of conformity and to copy on the board, and then you have like the private schools that are in the better areas that are more expensive.
Right.
It's freedom of thought.
Yep.
And it's almost like you're building the class system,
right,
from a young age.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
That is unfortunate, because it's like those are the kids that need it the most.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
And then we're just sending them down the same path that, I don't know, is not going to give them the most opportunity.
Right.
Or we're trying to fit, what is the saying? Square peg in a round hole?
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And I think the education system is trying to do a one-size-fits-all.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And it's not the case. And the people who make those decisions aren't in the classroom.
Mm-mm.
Not even at the principal level.
Mm-mm.
So we're trusting these people to make decisions,
right,
who are out of touch.
So out of touch.
And they see the scores, but they don't want to pivot from what's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You used to work this way. You have to just motivate them more.
Exactly. All these extracurriculars.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do a little dance in front of your class, that's not going to make them work. That's not going to make them understand.
Yep.
Because 3 years ago, they were sitting at home for a full year, not learning anything.
Yep.
So I would hope to say a change is coming. But
yep.
do I think it will come? I don't believe it will anytime soon.
Yeah.
And that's the depressing thing about being in education.
Yep.
Because I know for me, I had an idea in my head about what it would be like to work in education before I got into it. And it's just not that. But it's just, I think, like I said, the shift should be more toward independent thought and not regurgitating information.
Yep.
And even college is a lot like that too.
Absolutely.
Depending on what teachers you have.
Yep.
There was one professor I had at Delta that I would write down, it was the right answer. I would always get, I need you to think more critically about this topic. What you mean? I got it right.
Yeah.
Right? And so after a semester of that, I think by the end I was getting it. But it was reprogramming everything I learned from that point to that point, And that's how we're programming our kids today.
Absolutely.
Which is tough. It's a sad thing.
It is sad. And I'll add a little bit, because it is kind of recent. I was listening to this podcast yesterday. It's not exactly related to education, but it was talking about young boys and girls. The one size fits all. Like, we're trying to get young boys to sit down for extended periods of time, write down what's on the board, be quiet, not fidget. When for some of them, that's just not...
It's not the way they learn.
Yeah, that's not their personality. That's not their way they're built. They don't feel comfortable, right? Disengaged, let's say. And then I was just thinking my own thoughts, like, yeah, what is the point of, like, learning geometry in today's world?
Right.
Like, okay, maybe for some people that is applicable, right? If you're going to be a mathematician or anything related to that, okay, maybe it's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
But for somebody that wants to, like, I don't know, play sports or build things. Well, actually, build things, you kind of need geometry.
Well, I had my coach in high school, varsity coach, he would talk at angles. 90-degree angle to the basket. You got to go 75-degree angle, this and that.
Yeah.
And he was like, see, this is why you need to know your geometry. Because
right.
if you don't know your geometry, you don't know what this 90-degree angle means.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Sure, fair enough.
But only, like,
in a
very basic.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't need to know, like, that parallel lines have congruent angles at the top right and the top left.
No. No way.
Or the Pythagorean theorem.
Right.
When am I ever going to calculate the length of a triangle? Again, unless maybe you're building something.
So when students tell me that, right, I always tell them, well, hell, when I was your age, I didn't know I was going to grow up to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of got to know this stuff now.
Right.
So don't limit yourself what you know because you don't think you'll learn it. You'll need it when you grow up.
For sure.
But that being said, like, 90% of the stuff I had to go back and relearn.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
But for sure, like, nobody needs to know all that stuff.
Right.
You know.
And then yet we're testing the kids on it. We're punishing them if they don't learn it. They get bad grades if they don't learn it. And we're kind of like spoon feeding them, force feeding them this information. And then they graduate, they get into their jobs, and they realize, I'm never going to use this at all.
Right.
Maybe if I help my kid or my little brother or sister on homework, I might need to know it.
Right.
But outside of that, then what was the point of this whole experience, this 12 years that I spent?
And then, like, in order to get a job that is going to pay you well enough, right, you're going to have some sort of secondary education where you learn those things, whether it's math, whether it's extra reading, whether it's anything that will help you in the field, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be argued that the basic skills are the only thing that is needed from K to 12 is those basic skills that will allow you to perform the next task once you get to your specified field, you know? So, like you say, geometry, statistics, trigonometry, all that stuff.
Right.
Who needs that?
Who needs it?
But to work in that assembly line, I guess you need to know what angle to put that hole.
Something, man. So let me get your thoughts on this. Mm-hmm. It's kind of related, but in the podcast, so I'll just share just because it's kind of interesting. It's pretty much like the podcast was talking about the relationship between the sexes, male and female. Now, this might be controversial depending on who you ask, but pretty much the relationship, right? In the current times, like, where are we at? What are our issues? What are we talking about? That kind of thing. And in relation to the education thing, the guest pretty much said something like, maybe we should try putting in a course in high school on human interaction. Like, what does it mean to interact with humans? Reason being, in today's world, we're interacting physically less. I think most people would probably agree with that. We're interacting more through our phones, and even that is like very surface level, very shallow, not as intimate, not as authentic, and it's hindering our in-person physical interactions to the point where, like, we don't even know how to talk to each other anymore. We don't know how to read social cues. We don't know when, like, what is appropriate behavior, let's say. And I thought about that for a second, and it's actually something I've thought about for quite some time because, again, just noticing the trends in our world. Mm-hmm. And even in myself, after the pandemic, like, I found myself retreating from people. Now, I'm an overthinker, so I'll admit that, but I started asking myself, like, do I really know how, like, what is appropriate human interaction? Do I ask people how their day is? Like, how do I have a quick conversation with somebody without it being awkward or weird, or without letting my anxiety get the best of me, or overthinking, saying too much, saying too little, all this kind of stuff. So that's one thing, right, that you can kind of implement. Maybe one semester, teach people, what does it mean to interact? And then also another thing that's pretty relevant, I've heard it, I'd be interested to hear if you've ever heard the same thing, is just like personal finances, right? Yes. How do you manage your money? Like, we always talk about it in the context of math, right? Like, oh, if you don't learn math, you're not going to be able to manage your money. You might get swindled, somebody might scam you, blah, blah, blah. But then again, like, a lot of the math is not personal finance.
Right.
It's not credit. It's not checking, savings, investments,
right,
home buying, taxes, all that kind of stuff. So how do you feel about adding in something like those topics into education?
I think that it needs to be, like, it should be implemented. You know, I know Jalen Rose has a school in Detroit, and he implemented in that curriculum. It's a charter school. There is a finance component to the curriculum. And like you said, you need to know how to operate basic level. You know, our parents' generation, operate your checkbook and all that stuff. But I think that that's something that will be beneficial to generations, because when they get out of school, they need to know how to do these things.
Yeah.
You know, like, and also, like you were saying, with the human interaction, that is, like you say, with less and less human interaction happening, there needs to be a component of, you know, how to read social cues, how to interact online also, you know, because when you're interacting with somebody on text message, you can't, your mood dictates how you think that message was sent.
Absolutely.
So if you're in a bad mood and the person who's sending it says something very vague, automatically, oh, you're defensive.
Yep.
So how to read human interactions over virtually and in person is huge.
Absolutely.
It's huge, because if you're going to get a job, you have to be able to sell yourself.
Yes.
And so you need to be able to react to somebody's questions and use your body language and yourself to propel yourself to wherever you need to go in life.
Right.
You know, to make that person believe in you. You know. And so that's a huge skill that's overlooked because the curriculum is outdated.
Absolutely.
You know, and maybe the person who created the curriculum was a rich kid and never really had to sell themselves and interact with anybody because, hey, my dad started, you know, what is it, Hugh Mufflin, or whatever the name of that book, the people who make those textbooks are
McGraw-Hill,
right? So who knows, right? But absolutely. And when we say social studies, right, couldn't that be an aspect of it?
Absolutely.
You know, like,
absolutely.
You're studying how to be social.
Yeah.
Why not have a class on how to be social?
Right.
You know?
Right. What does healthy interaction look like? Here's another one that came up in the podcast, was conflict resolution. We don't know how to resolve our conflicts peacefully, diplomatically, without like breaking out into like yelling and cursing and getting frustrated or walking away, or thinking like, this person is just the enemy.
Right. And I think a lot of times, like, I am one of these people. I'm very, as you know, critical. I'm a very critical person. And that's something that I need to work on, because I need to understand that people are doing their best. They're not making a decision just to put you down. Right. You know, people are doing what they feel is the best in this situation.
Yep.
You know, and being able to resolve those internal conflicts that you may have with other people in a way that that leaves everybody feeling fulfilled is tough, man. That's a skill that we don't have. And speaking of Stockton, all the violence that happens, if we knew how to resolve those conflicts, it's tough. Man. It would be way better.
Right.
You know, and I know from the African American perspective, we put such a high precedent on respect. Oh man, they're disrespecting me, man. That dude not showing me the respect. But are you respecting that person?
Right.
Because it's a give and take, right? I give you the respect that I want. So if you broke that trust, then you're the one that needs to
reevaluate.
Yes.
Yes. You know, what energy are you putting out?
Right. Right. And so I think that's also like something like that's huge. Conflict resolution. And not the surface level, okay, let's sit down and
right, exactly.
Because that's what happens. You know.
Community circle.
Community circle. What are we feeling?
Yeah.
Don't say anything too controversial or else you'll get in trouble.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And community circles are good. Done well.
Right, right.
And part of that being done well is not doing it every week.
You
know, it's something that needs to happen in a case where something bad happened. You know, something really serious.
Right.
Happened.
That needs to be addressed.
Right. Now it's Tuesday. Let's do a community circle at 8 o'clock.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
But like you say, people do things the best that they can, and it may or may not be the best for that situation, but it felt right to do.
Right, and here we are. You sent me a clip on Instagram yesterday, I think so, sometime yesterday, about this guy, and if I remember correctly, he was talking about trade school pretty much. And yeah, so saying like we should give kids the opportunity to pursue that, right, as a career path.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
And then he also mentioned, I don't know if he mentioned it like this, but pretty much saying like maybe not everybody should go to college. Was that mentioned?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm curious to get your thoughts, and I'll share mine first because you did ask me. So yes, I 100% agree. I think that should be on the table, right? Because speaking from my own experience, it was not mentioned at all leading up to graduating high school. I don't think I can remember anybody that mentioned like, hey man, you could go to this other school and be a carpenter, an electrician, a plumber, anything else that, you know, is hands-on, let's say. You won't have as much debt, right? Maybe you can work simultaneously to going to school, so that will help mitigate some of the costs. And then once you do get out of school, here are some kind of set career paths that you could go down based on what you study in the trade school. Nobody ever mentioned that to me until, I mean, I don't know how I found out about it. I guess one, you just hear, like for me, I knew, in my opinion, college was like a scam, honestly. It's like I paid all this money. What did I learn that is applicable to career? I don't know, you know? And again, this might be controversial to some people, but so be it. And then I heard, you know, you see other people like carpenters, plumbers, electricians, all this kind of stuff that don't have the same debt as you, that are making decent money, got benefits, you know, middle class, blue collar type work, but they're taking care of their families. They have good careers, right? And they didn't go to college. At least your traditional 4-year university.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with this guy's thoughts, sentiments. It's like, at the very least, you can still encourage college for kids that want to pursue it, right? Maybe there's a certain path that you want to take that requires college. Maybe you want to be a doctor. Maybe you want to be a lawyer, be a teacher, right? That requires college. But for some kids, it's not for them. Maybe they just rather get straight to work, right? I like working with my hands. I don't need to study philosophy and writing and these math courses. I just want to get straight to it. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. How about yourself?
So I disagree with him.
Oh wow, okay.
Because he was saying that so my perspective on trade schools. So when I went to school, I went in debt because of it. So the trade school that I went to, cost me $30,000 to go there.
Okay.
They said, "Oh, you get in, get out real quick. You have a great job. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case.
I see.
I graduated from that place, $30,000 in the hole.
Yeah.
The job that I had, $15 an hour. Here you go, kid. Go ahead. Go be great.
Right.
You know? And so I think where a trade school can help like a community is to have diversity in like for I say for the black community. I'll speak for that. Diversity in where you can spend your dollars in the black community. Because a lot of what we have now is a lot of the black community, their businesses are only in like food and clothing. There's no welder that we can go to help me weld my water heater back on the wall.
Yep.
Or put my if something gets broken on my car, weld it back together, my catalytic converter.
Yep.
So in that aspect, yes, I think that'll help as far as diversity in community, as far as like
economic opportunities,
opportunity, diversity, and ownership.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier when you have a trade to own that labor. But then also, I think it's very taxing on the body. A lot of those trade jobs, your quality of life isn't the best as if you were in a white collar job working behind a desk.
I hear that. Yeah.
So for that perspective, I don't agree with him, but I do agree with there should be a diversity in community. So that for that aspect, yes.
Got it.
He did say that once the trade schools were taken out of the black community, everybody became drug dealers. I don't agree with that. He was saying in the 80s, everybody became drug dealers, and that's when all the trade jobs were gone. I don't think so. But I do.
What would you say differently in that?
I think. Well, what would I say differently as far as like
a diagnosis of the situation?
Well, I think a lot of like funding left. So a lot of the funding for different programs, maybe trades were a part of that.
Yep.
Left.
Yep.
So now you don't have the opportunity that you had before, and now these drugs are funneled into your community.
Yep. Yep.
So it could have been a best case scenario in all forms to provide this swell of drugs and drug dealing in the community. Also, there was a way to profit off of people in jail.
Right.
So now you have a labor force that's in jail. So now, okay, well, let's funnel this thing that can get people in jail in our community.
Yep.
And, we'll have another 2 labor forces that are going to, benefit our communities. But pivoting from that, I think if you have a focus on critical thinking first, then if you have, those trade schools in the community, now you can think critically about, okay, what does this mean?
Yep.
Not just, I'm going to be in this school because it's here.
Right.
And that I think should be the focus. And like one more on that, like I think trade schools can pigeonhole you.
Yep.
You're working for my airplanes your whole life.
Yep.
Something happens in the industry where it's down, you're laid off. Good job, good luck.
Right. What do I do now?
What do I do now? And I think there should be a focus on whatever area that is the most general. That way you can pivot easier in an economic recession or whatever.
Flexible skills.
Got
it. Okay. That's pretty much it that I had in terms of education. That was good. It's a lot. Switching to basketball again. You just finished, let's say, your 3rd season coaching. What was that experience like?
I realized that I don't think I am a good coach in that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to. I don't know if I developed the students to their best potential.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the, like my team specifically, was just pretty athletic overall. We're very big, and the tallest player was pretty athletic.
Yeah.
And so we won.
Yeah.
What did I do to improve the skills of the team? I don't think much, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, motivate them, yell at them a little bit, give them a couple drills. But like as far as like being a coach that develops players,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm there yet.
Got it.
And trying to, you know, step back and see if I can be that is where I'm at now.
Got it.
You know, but reflecting on, you know, what the season was like. Yeah, we won, great, but could we have won with Joe Blow coaching them off the street? And I think maybe that could have been a yes.
Right.
You know?
Like the group was gonna win regardless.
Yes.
Got it.
You know, because they're a pretty athletic group, and then compared to who we won up against,
Mm-hmm.
you know, roll the ball out there, let them play, probably would have come out on top.
Exactly.
You know, so that's where I'm at.
I feel you.
It's fun to be out there and to be a part of it, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really enjoy that. I know when I was crazy, right? No rain. When I was thinking about teaching, I always wanted to coach because it looks like, oh, you know, that'd be cool. I want to try that.
Mm-hmm.
Until you're in it.
Yep.
You know, but I will say it's fun.
Yep.
It's fun to do. But third year, you know, it's some more growing to do.
Of course.
You know.
Even me too. Like immediately after that first game with the Hawks,
Mm-hmm.
I got right into like what could I have done differently to prepare these kids for this type of game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was interesting because maybe you probably agree with this, like that was like different intensity than what we're used to in our city league, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Different intensity.
Laid back in city league.
Exactly. That was like pressing the whole game, very physical, very fast pace. And I was like, yeah. I realized like the practices needed to be a little bit different for the kids to be ready for that kind of situation. So I was already thinking like, okay, yeah, I could have did this differently. We could have talked about this. So yeah, there's always room to improve.
I think a lot of our kids are really comfortable in practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that finding that sweet spot where you're not like you're not degrading them, demeaning them, but they are uncomfortable and they are working towards, you know, progression and they're getting better. But I do think though, man, as I think back on like the coaches we coached against, I mean, I don't think none of them were any better than us.
Right.
You know, maybe like
I agree with that.
Athletically, they had better kids on their team, you know, but are they better than us? Probably not.
Yeah,
like,
definitely not.
I think that's the thing with coaching now, especially AAU. They're not into developing at AAU.
Right.
It's just go out there and win.
Right. Get the best kids together, make it happen.
Right. And so, like, I think that's where you should take a bow because from game 1 to game, what do we end at, 12?
No, like 15. Because we played, we played like, played 2 tournaments.
You could see a difference in the kids. You know, they knew what it took. And at least in that city league. Because remember last summer, a lot of those same kids were out there and it was like, what is going on? You know? And so I think there is a sense of, hey, you're developing skills with these kids. And, you know, they know how to play now. They know what it takes. Right. You know, and in the AAU program, they're just going to sit.
Yep.
We're going to put the kids that know how to play out there, and that is what it is. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. So, I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't play everybody in that game.
No?
I didn't. Yeah. And I actually, like halfway through the first half, I huddled all the kids on the bench, and I told them then. I had been meaning to tell them, like, leading up to it. I just forgot. Just too many things, man. But I told them right there, I was like, hey, not everybody's going to play this game. It's different, right? I can't put you in there if you're not ready. I pretty much told them to it like that. And that's okay. You can like me or not like me about it. Regardless, I hope this motivates you to be better. If basketball is serious, it's something that you want to take seriously, like, use this as motivation. You're like, Mr. Trent doesn't think I'm ready to play. Let me go get better.
Right.
So I told him that. But I did feel a little bit bad. But then I also knew it was like, I don't know, trying to win the game pretty much.
Right.
Gotta play the best. What are your thoughts?
And so I did the same thing. So the first game, everybody got to play some.
Mm-hmm.
We got down at halftime, and by halftime, everybody had played.
Yep.
So then the second half, you kind of can play who's gonna, help you win the game.
Yep.
And so we ended it like that. We came back, we won. Between the first and second game, kind of like what you did, is like, hey, everybody's not gonna play this game. Mm-hmm. But what can you contribute on the bench to make sure we win?
For sure.
And I think since we won, everybody was cool with it.
Right.
Had we had lost, I don't know. Or maybe some people still weren't cool with it. They just didn't say anything.
Sure.
I know there was one person for sure that went up to me, hey, what can I go in? And I was like, hold on, give me a second. Mm-hmm. And I think like 3 people didn't play.
Yeah.
But, we got a huge team.
You do.
Even, I don't want to say any names, but one kid that we pretty much, he was getting buckets for us, from last year to this year, athletically couldn't compete, couldn't make it up and down the court enough to play. And he was kind of upset.
I'm sure.
But, hey, we won.
Right.
But it's like, hey, bro, I know for me, you can feel when you're in over your head as a player. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he kind of felt that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where the players who didn't play I don't think I should be out here. Anyway.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of what I hoped my kids realized too, is you see what this game is like. It's very physical, very fast-paced, intense. Takes a lot to be ready for that, and not everybody is. So I kind of hope that they at least understood that to some extent. Okay, coach is making the right decision here.
And I think they do, because remember last year how we were sitting there how do we get these kids to go hard? Mm-hmm. Those same kids in the summer, they went hard all of a sudden. They understood what it took to win. Yep. And going through that, hardship kind of brings that out of you. If you want to play, you play. If you don't, you just sit right there.
Exactly.
But our society doesn't allow that much. Everybody plays. Everybody gets, the MVP trophy. We're all like, no.
Yep.
You got to earn it. You got to earn time on the court.
Yep.
But especially the league we're in doesn't really allow for that.
Exactly. Which is good. I think there's a place for it, right? It's some kids that are just starting out, just want to try basketball. There has to be a space for that. They can't just send kids into AAU and then send them to the Wolves or not give them time on the court because they're not going to develop. Let's pause right here. I'm going to close the garage and then we'll wrap it up.
It's all good.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up. We're close to the end here. It is raining, so we'll just acknowledge that, but so be it. We're going to get the job done. We just finished talking about coaching before we put pause. I do want to ask, have there ever been any coaches in your life that were very impactful, that left a mark on you, that you remember, that you still think about or still talk with?
My freshman basketball coach, he made an impact just off of being there. He only coached me the 1 year, but he was in the community, and someone that you can talk to if you need help. He give you a free meal. He owned like a Top Dog in the area, so you go there and get you a hot dog and some fries. He was always somebody that I looked up to.
Yep.
And actually, I saw him. I went to a Cal basketball game a couple of years back, and he hyped me up and hyped my son up, and it made me feel good. He kind of lied to my son and told him that I was like pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
to hype you up.
To hype me up. To make my son think that I was somebody in basketball. But so his name was Coach Trahan.
Okay.
So he was one that I think about when I think about coach.
Got it. And of course, it's hailing now.
Hailing now.
Okay. Alrighty. Last question. What advice do you have for young people? High school, college, middle school, to live a good life, to find meaning, to find purpose. What do you say to young people that are figuring their life out right now?
So what I usually tell kids that are lost and don't like the situation that they're in, right? I always tell them, like, whatever that thing that they enjoy doing, hold on to that and use that as a light to keep on moving, to keep on moving forward, to keep showing up to whatever it is. It's like, usually it's in a school setting. Like, whatever you like about, one thing you like about school, keep going, keep pursuing that aspect.
Yeah.
And so that's usually my message is, find your light and pursue that. Keep going and keep moving towards it.
That's it. Alrighty. Don't hate me for this, but Mr. Garrett, I appreciate you for your time.
Oh, no, anytime, brother.
Thank you for sitting down with me, sharing your story. Yeah, it was nice hearing from you. So,
yes, sir.
Appreciate you. That's it, ladies and gentlemen.